Folks ask, why should I care about the ocean? I'm not anywhere near it. It doesn't affect me. Science is showing us that most of the oxygen that we breathe comes from the ocean. The funding crisis for ocean science is really, really dangerous. That is going to affect all of us.
How long is that iceberg, Don?
It's about 3/4 of a mile long. The biggest one I've seen yet.
Some people call me Deep Sea Dawn. I got interested in oceanography as a child. And then at the age of 8, I decided I want to be an ocean geologist. I've been on many, many ocean expeditions. I've been to parts of the world underwater that very few people have seen before. I have explored places and seen places for the first time, from Antarctica to the volcanoes under the Sea of Japan. It's been great. I'm still a child inside. What I love most about the ocean is the sense of adventure and freedom. To me, the ocean is life. Growing up in Hawaii, you are part of the ocean. The ocean is sacred. We are so enamored with how much we know about the moon. We know all about the different craters of the moon. We know about Mars and Venus, but we don't have the same level of understanding of the Earth. And that's because we have not mapped the oceans at the same level of detail. I'm the chief scientist of Esri, which also stands for the Environmental Systems Research Institute. Esri needs a chief scientist because science underpins everything that the company produces. Esri creates a whole series of base maps, and one of our really important base maps is an ocean base map. It shows you the world's underwater topography. To have a map, a detailed map of the entire ocean floor is so important because it helps us to understand the totality of this planet. The oceans are doing this amazing job of absorbing the excess greenhouse gases that human activity is putting into the atmosphere. But they're absorbing a lot of heat. The higher sea surface temperatures create larger storms, maybe more frequent storms. The oceans are really the engine of climate change, so we need to understand the oceans and to map the oceans for all of those reasons.
By doing that, we've actually seen that.
When funding for science is cut, the consequences are severe.
Environments that are not conducive to.
If we don't have the funding for students, we could lose a whole generation of creative, innovative scientists to help us push forward, helping to make these discoveries with us that make all of our lives better. With the recent cuts that we've experienced, I won't say that it's completely destroying ocean science, but it's certainly making it more difficult for us to move forward. Our great ships of science, such as the Sally Ride and the Roger Revelle, sit in port, and everyone loses. In science, we're all trying to make a contribution. We all stand on the shoulders of those who went before us. So I'm just one of the pieces in the puzzle. If we don't make science a priority in this country the way that we have in the past, the stakes are that we will lose us. We will not be the United States of America that we have been. We will not be leaders and innovators. We will not be a force for good in the world. Science is intrinsic to who we are, to what we have become, the good things about this nation. We can't afford to go back.
Hear, hear, let science speak. Lego minifig, Deep Sea Dawn, Esri Chief Scientist, Don Wright.
Thank you very much, Drew. And it's such a pleasure for me to welcome you here to the Esri Ocean GIS Forum. You are the hope for the future, which is why I've entitled my remarks this morning, An Agenda for Hope. I'm going to try to give you an update of what we are doing in terms of science and specifically ocean science here at Esri. And we do have a reason to be hopeful and encouraged despite some of the things that you saw in the video. In fact, from last night, we now know that the House Science Committee will finally have a leader who understands and accepts climate science. So onward we go. Now, ocean science at Esri is actually part of a broader ecosystem or framework of sciences that we support and that we develop for at Esri. So we're very, very excited about all of the things that we're doing across all of the environmental sciences. You've heard from Jack already about the tools and the research and development and the vision that we have for all aspects of mapping, but certainly in terms of how and why we map the oceans. This is embedded in what we do to strengthen the foundation of our software and services here at Esri, and then also to represent Esri to your community and to serve along with you, to publish along with you, to research and to communicate along with you, including our great partner, Tim Hawthorne. His presentation was just absolutely fantastic and is a wonderful example of the partnerships that we truly treasure here at Esri in the sciences realm. There's a lot that's going on. I don't have enough time to tell you everything that's happening in the ocean sciences realm in terms of what we're doing at Esri and with all of the other sciences. So I'd encourage you to take a look for this postcard that you will find up at the registration table, and you can go to the resources there and find out a lot more about what's happening. But to give you a quick update over the next 15 minutes or so, this is a big meeting for us. We put a lot of effort into this. We are also going to be at the American Geophysical Union meeting next month among 25,000 Earth scientists. How many of you attend AGU as well? So we'll see a few of you at AGU, and we'll have probably about 23 talks and papers there, many of them that are ocean sciences based, many of them that are focused on climate and weather as well. And you'll see over the years that this meeting will evolve into an ocean, climate, and weather forum. So we really warmly welcome our atmospheric science and our climate and weather mappers to this community. There's a lot of optimism. We call it on Twitter and other social media platforms, we call this ocean optimism. There's also earth optimism. This is a picture of my puppy Riley from last year's Ocean Forum. So of course I have to show you what she's like now, a year later. Very optimistic about science, about oceans, and she was also anticipating the trick-or-treaters that were coming to our house. There is really a lot of good news that is out there. We are hearing already the good news that you are going to be expressing in your talks and in your presentations. We can't wait for that. But one piece of good news that was, I think, overshadowed by the election last night is that the ozone hole over the poles, the ozone hole that we've been hearing about over the Antarctic and over the Arctic since the 1980s, did you know that that ozone hole is now repairing itself? The BBC has been talking about this quite a bit. We need to be hearing more about it in the United States. And the United Nations has said that this is a testament to what governments can do together, in this case, the Montreal Protocol. So there's your work is making a difference, and many of us have been tracking these protocols and these efforts. Most recently, the Our Ocean Conference, which was started by the U.S. State Department and Secretary of State John Kerry, that is continuing on now, and other nations are picking up the ball. The Our Ocean Conference last week was held in Bali. And one of the things that was expressed there, which was another surprise, something else that's been overshadowed by other news, is what Professor Jane Lubchenco and her colleagues at Oregon State University reported as a result of a study that they did. Basically, they have found that the nations and organizations that have taken action on nearly all of their recent ocean conservation pledges that they've made at these meetings, like Our Ocean, they have all taken action, and almost half of those promises have been fulfilled. You know, we talk about how we come together at these meetings and we talk and talk and talk and nothing happens. Something is happening. And their data show that over 12 million square kilometers of areas have been protected by ocean action, and $18 billion worth of broad ocean action has been funded. So that's a bit of good news. There's also good news on the corporate front. Now, I've put a logo of Adidas up here because Adidas is one of the companies that is really taking the ocean plastic problem extremely seriously. And so Adidas now has a new initiative called Biofabrics. And they are literally making clothing out of plastic that has been recovered from beach cleanups. So this is an example of an Adidas hoodie that is made completely out of plastic that was recovered from a beach cleanup, likely from a beach cleanup that you participated in. Every stitch of this garment is made from that plastic. And it's got, of course, the Adidas logo. Even that is made out of plastic. So Adidas now is really on a tear to get rid of plastic. In fact, the message here is that we need to stop making plastic. We need to stop relying on plastic. That's a longer-term initiative. But in terms of ocean plastic and the marine debris problem, there are efforts afoot by major corporations now to turn us to a different direction. And so Adidas's Biofabric initiative, I don't know if you know this, but if you're a World Cup fan, every single team that was sponsored by Adidas was wearing a uniform made out of biofabric, made out of plastic that was recovered from the world's ocean beaches. Every team in the Champions League that is sponsored by Adidas is wearing these types of fabrics. So that's another nice development. There are so many stories that are being told by you as users and innovators of GIS, and so I just wanted to highlight a few of these. Many of us have been heartbroken over Puerto Rico and the response or lack thereof. But there's a great article that's just come out in Arc News about how ArcGIS disconnected apps have been really helping with the response in Puerto Rico. There's a wonderful story about how users have been restoring oyster habitats using geodesign. There's an article that Sylvia Earle and I were pleased to write about the serious problem of oxygen, the lack of oxygen in the oceans. The deoxygenation of the oceans is almost as critical and serious a problem as ocean acidification. So that's something else that we need to be aware of, but there's some specific steps that we can take, that all of us can take, to combat that. And so this article gives you some specific guidelines for that. So these are all fantastic, hopeful stories. All of you are creating these stories, and we've been trying to keep up with them. I have a really hard time keeping up with Dom's magnet school, with all of the story maps that you create, and also with Tim Hawthorne's Citizen Science GIS group, all the story maps they create. But we're trying to keep up with them and to collect them. So there is a collection of story maps called An Ocean of Story Maps that Rupert Essinger of our Story Maps team has put together. He's chosen about 20 of these stories. So don't forget to pay attention to collections of story maps now. And then there's also a catalog. This is basically a blog post of all of the story maps that I'm able to find. And so they're all in this catalog that's also called An Ocean of Story Maps. And the story maps that you're creating this week, or that you are submitting for the Map and App Challenge, those are going into this catalog as well. So keep telling these wonderful stories and using the story map platform for that. It really is the way that we are showing how GIS is not just a cool technology, but is really a technology for good, a technology that is helping us to change course, that is helping us to mobilize action, perhaps even mobilizing the vote. A recent story map that we really love here at Esri was made by our friends at Grid Arendal in Norway. It talks about oceanic blue carbon and how marine life can help to combat climate change. So you see that there is a symbiotic relationship between the ocean and the atmosphere. Both of them are fluids, both of them interact, both of them are critical to our health and to our safety. So check out this story on oceanic blue carbon. And I want to use this as a way to recognize the partnerships, the scientific partnerships that we've had of late. Esri and NCAR, the National Center for Atmospheric Research, is a great partnership that we have struck up. We've been working with them for many years, but over the last year or so, they have been wonderful in helping us to leverage the climate data, the atmospheric GIS data that they have been nurturing and creating. That data is going into the Living Atlas of the World. This is a blog post that was written by our chief cartographer, Charlie Fry, which talks about the work that we've been doing there, particularly as it has been expressed in a new Learn lesson. So this is a new Learn GIS, ArcGIS lesson that allows you to be exposed to some of that important data, and also in terms of some of the important climate models, the Community Earth System model that NCAR facilitates, the Coupled Model Intercomparison Project, Phase 5 projections. You have a chance within this Learn lesson to explore that data, to understand it, and to map with it. So we are very excited about this relationship with NCAR. And again, this is part of our expansion from the oceans to climate and weather. And so we are a fluid community. We are also pleased to have struck up a new partnership with Climate Central. You may know Climate Central as a very important organization that involves scientists as well as journalists. Climate Central has a very good relationship with the New York Times and the Washington Post and scientific bloggers, and they do so much to communicate climate science to the public, mainly through science journalists. And they work on a lot of wonderful data sets and applications as well, one of which is called Coastal DEM, which is a data set that they produce to help with flood hazard mapping and mitigation and adaptation. They have developed a wonderful Coastal DEM data layer that is significantly better than NASA's SRTM in terms of mapping areas of flood risk. Much of that is underestimated with the NASA SRTM data that is used in so many models. So we're working with Climate DEM, with Climate Central to get Coastal DEM, a free and open version of it, into the Living Atlas of the World, and other activities that we hope to undertake with them. We're very proud to be a partner with JEBCO and their Seabed 2030 initiative. Seabed, 2030 is going to be a big year. By 2030, we have to get our act together, says the IPCC, or there's going to be very, very bad consequences from global warming. By 2030, we also want to have the seafloor pretty much mapped in its entirety, and so the Seabed 2030 project is undertaking that. And so we've been very, very proud to partner with the Nippon Foundation and JEBCO and the other partners who are involved in that effort. And you'll hear more about the workflows that we have been advising this initiative on from Caitlin Rains, who is our primary liaison with the Seabed 2030 project. There's also a wonderful Xprize that is currently ongoing. It's called the Shell Ocean Discovery Xprize, which is another effort in terms of getting toward this full coverage of the ocean floor. I'm going to say it again, as others have, we have better maps of the moon, Venus, and Mars than we have of our own ocean floor. If we are to protect this planet and to save it, we must map it, we must understand it, and we must be able to have those maps be a critical part of our consciousness, but also our government response and management. So the Shell Ocean Discovery Xprize is going to award $7 million to a team and teams who can develop technology that can most efficiently map and photograph and image the ocean floor. They are in phase 2 of that competition right now. Many of the teams are in Kalamata, Greece, and Kalamata, the Kalamata olives, same Kalamata. We are very proud to be supporting Xprize in terms of scientific advice. We have been helping them with the mapping technology that they are using, that all of the teams must turn their work in, so to speak, in order to be judged. They're using ArcGIS for that. And we are also working on a story map of that entire endeavor. The Xprize is finally ramping up because they were recently covered in Science magazine. And as they finish phase 2, they're going to go into a final series of competitions that will lead up to the final prize being awarded in March, at the end of March in 2019. I want to also take a moment to really call out Earth Analytic, one of our business partners who has been so wonderful to work with on so many fronts, but Earth Analytic has been particularly supportive of these endeavors. And Weatherby Dorshow, who I think we'll be hear from him tomorrow, from Greece, he has been a wonderful partner in helping one particular team with that Xprize effort. We're also very, very happy to welcome Eva Schemmel and her colleagues who are working on the Ocean Health Index. Hopefully you've heard of the Ocean Health Index. This is an endeavor, a big effort by Conservation International, UCSB's National Center for Environmental Analysis and Synthesis, the National Geographic, and many other partners. The Ocean Health Index is basically one of the best indicators that we have now in terms of how healthy our ocean is. They have a series of indicators that governments can use to literally assess the health of their oceans. They have about over 30 countries now that have adopted the Ocean Health Index, and they're using that in order to take action to raise their scores and basically save their oceans. And the Ocean Health Index is moving into another phase where they would like to work with cloud-based data aggregation and visualization. So we're very proud to announce a new partnership with the Ocean Health Index. OHI and Esri are working on an ocean health hubs that they will be investigating and working with over the next months with us, and preparing some wonderful story maps as well. So that's another partnership we're very excited about. And if you haven't had a chance to read about the Ocean Health Index, please do, and please also look at their Ocean Health Index science site. This is an open data science site with lots of data sets, tools, and resources for marine science and management that are really, really valuable, even if you are not a government that is trying to raise your score in terms of the OHI. Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution is another partner that we're very pleased to be working with recently. How many of you have heard of the TED Prize? The TED Prize, Technology, Entertainment, and Design, all of those TED Talks that we listen to, there's been a TED Prize awarded to an individual. Sylvia Earle was one of the recipients of a TED Prize, which is why we have Mission Blue, I believe, that came from her TED Prize. They have moved on now. TED has moved on to the Audacious Project. So they're no longer giving out prizes to individuals. They're giving out Audacious Project prizes to organizations and groups. And Woods Hole Oceanographic has recently been awarded a $35 million Audacious Project prize to map and explore and to help us understand the twilight zone, that zone of the ocean between 200 and 1,000 meters. And they've recently reached out to us at Esri to help them with data management, with spatial analytics, with managing and modeling their bioacoustic data from their mesobots that they're going to be building, and to communicate what they're doing through story maps. So we're pretty excited about that. Now, these are all fantastic partnerships, all of which are their special stories. We're going to be compiling several stories into a new book, so we're very excited about GIS for Science, which will be coming out by the UC of next year. And we have 22 chapters compiled. It's been a real pleasure to work with Christian Harder of Esri Press, who is my co-editor on this project. GIS for Science will be a wonderfully illustrated coffee table, Scientific American-style book that will tell the stories of how GIS, as it's applied in these different sciences, is really making a difference. It's not just getting us publications and making us feel good and helping us to be good in our ivory tower and get tenure and all that. This is really making a difference in people's lives, just as you've seen with Tim Hawthorne's wonderful keynote about what his research is doing. So there are 22 chapters in GIS for Science, and 4 of them have an ocean theme. So look for that at next year's UC. And if you come to the Science Symposium at next year's user conference, you'll get a copy of the book for free. Okay, so I've given you a lot of information here, a lot of websites, a lot of places to go on the internet. So if you'd like to capture all of that, just go to this address and you can get a copy of all of these slides. The slides are accompanied by notes and with addresses so that you can actually go to these pages if you're interested in finding out more. Now, I haven't mentioned one huge project that has been absolutely fantastic for us at Esri, and that, of course, is our ecological characterization and mapping and data provision. So undoubtedly now you've heard about these projects, the ecological marine units, now transitioning into the ecological coastal units. These have been the brainchild and the labor of love of our colleague Roger Sayer, who has led us here at Esri and several other scientists in characterizing and mapping and provisioning data, these characterizations of the entire planet. We have a great colleague in this effort, Dr. Peter Harris at Grid Arendal in Norway, who has written and submitted a proposal to the European Union to jumpstart our ecological benthic units mapping of the seafloor as well. The ecological marine units right now is really in a wonderful phase. It has been either featured or published in the scientific journals that you see there on the right. We have about 15 use cases of ecological marine units that are currently underway by researchers and resource managers all over the world, including our friends at NOAA and BOEM, who yesterday gave us a wonderful preview of their ocean reporting tool, which will be incorporating the ecological marine units, particularly for aquaculture applications. So we're very excited about the different ways that these content layers are being used. We're creating these for them to be used so that we can understand and put value on the ecosystem services that the oceans and the coast are bringing to us. So we are very, very excited now to hear from Roger Sayer, who is a senior scientist for ecosystems within the land change science program at the U.S. Geological Survey. But he really has become the senior scientist of the planet. He's doing not just the land, but the oceans, the coast. Together we joke about total world domination in a good sense. And so I want to welcome Roger now to give you an overview, an update of the Ecological Coastal Units project and a wonderful data set that he has been working on. So thank you very much for listening to me, and I now would like to pass over to Roger Sayer.